Hello and good morning. I hope this finds you well, and I hope you're looking for some good stimulation today because we're going to have a great conversation with Bath Spa University. This is an event designed by us with Bath Life to help you with your business in this time of the Great Reset, because it's time for us all to get active to generate new business. So this Bath Life Business Surgery with Bath Spa University is of course really welcome because it's great to see the university connecting with the city as it is today, and you'll get to hear a flavour of some of their high quality thinking and the programmes they're working on. We're focusing today on innovation, stimulation and training, quality of thinking and prompts to think differently about our businesses and about our teams. Many and varied, of course, are the ways that academics see the world, perhaps more theoretically than the rest of us, perhaps moving on a more elevated plane, perhaps also in a purer way, less contaminated by quotidian concerns of value, more about thinking and insight. And we have never surely needed greater high quality thinking about what we do and why we do than right now. In short, we all need stimulus, intellectual perhaps today rather than fiscal stimulus, although fiscal is quite useful as well. No pressure on our speakers to deliver high value provocations then. And here's to a robust discussion. Please ask questions using the Q&A button below. Name yourself on the question if possible, so we can give you a little recognition or a shout out. So before that, some updates for you. Just a few days before our Prime Minister reveals the remaining parts of the roadmap that haven't been leaked already, and less than 2 weeks before the Chancellor tells us the furlough scheme is both ending in April and also being tapered until June, probably. We'll see. Some news from Bath Life before we get going. Actually, first a shout out. Julian House's big sleep out is taking place at home. So it's not out, it's in, but it's still happening. Check their website and social media feeds and so on. It's fundraising in aid of the homeless. And I know many Bath Life businesses and residents and readers rather have contributed to that in previous years. Good opportunity, vital. Business surgeries. Look out for the next one after this one, which is on March 4th. It's a budget surgery around that Rishi Sunak budget, the day after it, where we'll attempt to explain what it might mean for your business. Please talk to us, by the way, if you wish to be featured in that as the bearer of wisdom. Great insight. 3 weeks after that, there's another business surgery with Data Sharp Integrated Communications about comms and technology insights. These Bath Life Business Surgeries are bespoke deep dives showcasing companies' expertise from any sector through discussion, as you'll see from today's session. Please talk to us about how you might be involved. We can all do with advice, but actually we can also all do with new business. Awards, quick updates. We've got our Bath Property Awards running on March 12th. It's part of the Bath Property Symposium. That's got 4 parts. There's open networking, thought leadership. There's a great piece we've commissioned from Chris Druce, the senior research and analyst at Knight Frank, about residential property trends, valuations, Brexit effect, everything. It's a really sort of a brilliant piece. And then sponsor-hosted networks, and then the awards, finally, virtually. You'll get some details of how you can engage with that, I say enjoy, how you can engage with that on our Twitter feed right now. We'll give details of a brilliant keynote from Lucian Cook, who gave last week at our Bristol Property Symposium, and also the login for the tickets and so on for the Bath Property Awards. Bath Life Awards take place, I hope the news has permeated, out on September the 9th. If you missed the launch event we had last month, do check the video on our Bath Life Awards YouTube channel. The nominations are now open. Just like to close this part of it by saying thank you as ever for your support for Bath Life. It's clear that many companies are gearing up now for better times ahead for us all, and we're determined to play our part in that. One specific, our high profile Pro Services Special is running again at the end of March. It's already is a great array of businesses featured there. Please do talk to the team if you want to be on the front foot generating new business for your company. Right, let's do this. Let's do this business surgery. And as we bring forward our speakers, this is Andy Salmon and Tony Stimson, please, I'll talk through their bios as they come forward, and we can look through the wonders of technology that actually works. There we go, there's Andy, and Tony will be joining us very soon. For those who don't know, Andy's got a pretty high profile role. He's the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts at Bath Spa Uni, development of innovation projects, led to the promotion to Pro-Vice Chancellor, External in June 2019, and Professorship in Creative and Social Enterprise in spring 2020. And we're here today about a large joint university, local authority and business initiative, iStart, which is innovation, science, technology, arts, research, teaching, which Andy is working. And Tony, hello Tony, good morning.
Morning.
Tony's majority of the last 20 years working in IT sales, so it's not the immediate academic background that Andy has. Predominantly at IBM and then at Lenovo. Majority of the last 6 years spent running a European business, a US tech startup. So business insight there. He's had the personal narrative that redundancy happened in March 2020, and like so many, having to repivot, rethink, reevaluate priorities and what's important in life. Joining Bath Spa University in June 2020, has been heavily involved in both iStart and Restart programs. Right, there's an intro and a canter. Let's give us some context to this, please. Maybe Andy. How many, for those who don't know, give some idea of scale. How many students at Bath Spa Uni? How many staff in all roles?
There are 9,000 students and 900 staff.
Yeah, so that's a real scale enterprise, and you've talked several times about that, about the importance of the university engaging with the city, perhaps more than in other times. You'd like to just pick up on that?
Sure. I think, it's important to see that the university, of those 9,000 students, 73% of them are from the region. 80% of them stay in the region or want to stay in the region. So our relationship with the regional economy and its cultures and ecosystems is really, really, really important. And I think, if you take both universities and the college together, that works out as a population of 30,000 students in a city of 80,000 people. So the ratios nationally there are very high, and obviously that has its challenges, but it also has, in particular in relation to the reset you were talking about, Greg, in the intro, there's huge potential there. This is all about how we exploit that better.
I think the stat may not be wholly accurate, so blame it on fake news, but I think it's the case that Bath has the second highest ratio of students to populace behind Durham, but absolutely right up there. So it's very much a university city, more so than others. Okay, tell me this, there's a slight stand-back point in this area, that traditionally, perhaps historically, universities have been brilliant worlds unto themselves, beautiful, stimulating, life-changing, but largely separate from their cities.
Yes.
Counterintuitive point to you, why not just stick to that? Why bother engaging?
Because the whole of the future, I think, and my take on the pandemic is that in many ways it hasn't changed anything, it's accelerated everything. So if you look at what was happening to retail before, it was already happening. It's now everything that's happened has become more so. Universities are civic organizations that need to be completely enmeshed in working for their communities, be they the business communities, the social community. We are not isolated ivory towers. There is a point in terms of what you said about the value of if you like, being able to construct theories, but if you look at Tony and I, who are working on what we're going to be talking about together today, very, very much, we come from very different backgrounds. It's that combination of, if you like, what began for me as a theoretical approach to innovation and becomes increasingly practical, and from Tony's point of view, is absolutely focused around years on the sharp end of business. And I think that's a microcosm for how we need to co-create the future with our business partners.
Well, there's a lovely phrase which, we've all clung to different phrases at different times, but the whole concept of the future is unwritten. And we can be passive about the future, or we can be active.
Or we can change it.
or we can change it. Then this is a time, if ever there were a time, for us all to step up and help shape our own futures, our business futures, our city's future, hence this discussion. So let's come on to some detail. I would like to talk about Restart and the programme there a little bit, but then come on to iStart in more detail and to explain the differences between them so that everyone knows that. So perhaps, Tony, if you could pick up on Restart, what actually is it, and how does it work in conjunction with Bath College?
Yeah, thanks, Greg, and good morning, everyone. So Restart's a rapid upskilling, reskilling programme. It's a collaboration between ourselves, Bath Spa University and Bath College, and effectively we present a catalogue of modules. So the college provides some modules, we provide some modules, and it allows participants, learners, to plot a pathway through the programme according to their specific needs. So, for example, one of the things that we're seeing a great level of interest at the moment is entrepreneurship, people wanting to start their own business. The college provide a module called Be Your Own Boss. It focuses on business ideas. We provide a module called Entrepreneurship. It looks at the whole business planning process. Participants can then complement that with a module around marketing that we provide. So you've got this pathway, if you like, the participants can plot under the heading of Restart to form a business idea, take it to market, and so on. It's founded under three principles. The first is immediate, to address the need now, the post-pandemic need, the fact that a lot of people, like myself, have been disrupted by unemployment, they're on furlough, reevaluating their options. The second point is it's inclusive. So regardless of previous education background, employment history, it's open to all. And the third principle, which strikes the business community, is it's demand-led. So as part of the design process for Restart, we went out to the business community and asked them what skills they were looking for in a delivery program to address their immediate concerns around matching suitable candidates with their vacancies.
I think that the point about entrepreneurialism, the Southwest, Bath and Bristol have always been very strong, probably disproportionately so, but the pandemic prompt that you both effectively talked about, I'm sure is making people think differently about their business opportunity and also what opportunities are out there. There's different business models that didn't even exist 6 months back. So that's really interesting. But for someone watching this now, what would they need to do? Is it free? How would they engage? What sort of course or otherwise?
Yeah, so to answer the immediate question, Greg, it is free. So it's provided at no charge. It's open to adults over the age of 19. We're advertising the catalogue of modules on the Achieve in Bath website. We're launching our own website as of Monday next week, which will lay out the curriculum, pathways and various modules. Candidates can choose which modules they want to engage with, and we send them, at the moment it's online delivery, we send them the Google Meet invite. Alternatively, they can send an email to Bath College, acl@bathcollege.ac.uk, and express their interest that way in order to sign up.
One very specific point, if it's online, could frankly anyone anywhere sign up for this if they wished?
Yes, is the answer. Yeah, absolutely, they can.
Yeah, good.
So it's open.
Okay, well,
on that point, it's open to the business community as well. So if there are people on this call that have a particular need for something, have a look at the Achieve in Bath website and see if the Restart programme provides it for you. And if it does, you're more than welcome to register and sign up and send a member of staff or yourself an attendant. That
was my next question about businesses being prompted to check out their own staff's needs and so on. Please, when it's live, if you let us know as well, if you tag it with Bath, #Bath Together, we'll make sure we retweet and push through the Bath Life social channels and generally promote this. We'll also include the link on subsequent comms from this email as well. If our team can just log that as a thing, that'd be really great. We can act as this echo chamber. We'll move on to iStart, because this is a more complex, strategic, collaborative much bigger scale, in many respects wholly different, but some parallels. Can you actually just explain what this is, and we'll come on to what it means for businesses and for Bath?
Sure. If I give a quick kind of headline explanation, we can then unpack that. The first thing is the title, which is a big clue. As you said, Greg, science, technology, arts, research, teaching. In other words, it cuts across all the traditional divides. There's a big divide in education between arts and science. We're working across those. There's also a big divide in education between levels. So, an A-level student, a college student, a university undergraduate, a postgraduate, a researcher, a business, they're a business startup. They're now all involved in the university world, but they're kept in very separate boxes. iStart is the first example of this, certainly in Britain. I worked on a similar project in Finland before I came to Bath, but it's the first time in Britain that those levels can be mixed up. So as well as the horizontal across disciplinary integration, you've got a vertical integration. So a college student could work with an undergraduate, could work with a startup business. I think that's really, really important, because that's what life's like. In our companies, we don't segregate ourselves in terms of a separated workforce. People who are at different levels in the company work together. Why isn't education the same? Because there's mutual food in each of those directions, and that's the fundamental core idea. The other core idea is that you bring together educational providers to provide, if you like, co-curriculum. So the two universities, the college and Baines, and now 50 businesses are working closely on this. Because why are these things? Why is this resource separate? It doesn't. If education in inverted commas was a business, you wouldn't do that. It's only in our kind of public sector way of organising things that you think like that. And when you think about universities, for instance, whose plant is used intensively for 30 weeks a year and then empty for the next 20, why do that? It doesn't make any sense. So, we're thinking about how we combine our resource and our capacity. That then leads to the last point, which is the curriculum we actually deliver. And this is where it connects in with Restart. Restart is fundamentally a kind of test pilot, everything that Tony's just been explaining, for the much bigger project of iStart. If iStart goes according to plan, and all signs so far are good, it will have a shiny new space in the centre of Bath in September 2023. When the pandemic broke last March, we sat sort of around a metaphorical table and thought, that's an awful long way ahead. We need to start doing stuff now, and we need to start piloting the curriculum. And the key thing I'd say about the curriculum is this. This will sound very, very normal to our business audience, but this is very unusual in education. It shouldn't be, but it is. We are designing the curriculum based around the two things. On the one hand, the access needs of the people coming in, and on the other hand, the destination needs of the businesses. Out of that research and data, we design a curriculum. The curriculum looks very, very different from anything that we currently do, in the sense that it's short, modular-based, stackable, blended. People can hop on and hop off. Your point about can anybody take it from anywhere, that is really, really important. And it's one of the affordances we've got to really make the most of in terms of the pandemic. So for instance, just as, and I'm sure, you know, we can replicate this in the business world. We've had open lecture series in the last few months that have attracted audiences of 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. You know, previously there'd be 40 people in a room.
Yeah.
We've really got to get a grasp of this in terms of what does it mean in terms of our learning possibilities. So in summary, a very different configuration, in partnership based, co-creative, and this is, you know, we need bit more business help we can get, the better, in terms of how to design things that are then skills gap based, which then enable a much more productive pipeline for people.
So it's quite clear this has complexities, challenges, huge level of ambition, innovation, collaboration, and so on. I mean, just to even frame it this way, to say that those involved at the get-go from Bath Spa Uni, the University of Bath, I mean, that of itself is a relatively rare collaboration, I would have thought. Set Squared Bath, the Innovation Centre, maybe the Institute of Coding, Bain, Wecker. This is a huge thing. So you've given us a sort of the bigger picture point about how and why it works. Picking up almost on those Matthew Arnold days of the two cultures of science and arts coming together finally, 150 years on. What does it mean for businesses? How might they engage, and why should they engage?
Do you want me to start? Okay. A big question there, Greg. So in terms of the here and now, we are actively working with business in terms of the curriculum design. The what's in it for the businesses is the more they engage with us and help us with the curriculum design, the greater the likelihood of a program like iStart being able to address their recruitment challenges. One of the things that we continually hear from business, where in surveys and when we speak to them, is there are challenges around matching people with the right skills into the right jobs. Okay, so there's a real what's in it for me statement there, benefits. The second point is it builds on from that actually. We're also looking for businesses to engage with us on an ongoing basis. So one of the things that we talk about with iStart is these curated collisions within the curriculum delivery. So businesses actually coming in, providing some of the content, providing mentorship for the participants, work placements, work programs, and so on and so forth. Again, it all comes to that access to the pipeline of skills coming through the program, and being able to tap into that. On a sort of more generic, longer term basis, the big thing coming through the region at the moment, particularly from Wecker, is the green recovery. And we're obviously looking at that very carefully and how we align the content of iStart to that. In real terms, what we want to do is provide a hub within Bath to allow businesses to take advantage of the investment that's inevitably going to come through both from central and local governments. I mean, the Wecker Recovery Plan alone is a £500 million investment programme between now and 2025 as an example of that. Okay? And it's true to say that the skills don't exist today. The innovation doesn't exist today. The startup businesses don't exist today at the scale they need to take advantage of those investments. So again, that's how we're looking to align the iStart program and benefit business.
But what do you say to businesses who right now are considering their budget for beginning of a new financial year? They're waiting with bated breath on Rishi Sunak and his budget on March 3rd, which is one of the reasons why we're doing the session on March 4th. They're thinking, it's virtually impossible to work out what business is going to be like. They've got to navigate this short-term period. We know directionally it's going to be much more positive, but their concerns are very near-term. How do you gain saliency, those sorts of businesses, about the more conceptual, longer term value add? That's a challenge for you, isn't it?
Maybe if I just a quick observation and then pass on to Tony. The first thing is that the engagement isn't going to cost them anything. Other than businesses, there's obviously the time element. The second is that in terms of the co-creative way of looking at things, the question is much more, I think, how do we use our resource to help provide them in terms of particularly both pipeline for employees and also, relevancy of training and retraining. Because if we do this properly, Greg, we're providing a service which gives a structure which will enable their sustainability. I think that's it. And I think if we think about, the short modular basis for the curricula, these can be very short. One of the things that's very, very clear is from our data is that small companies are already finding it pre-pandemic. Something like 37% of them say that they haven't got a training budget. They have that, and so actually we could be in a position working with them so that it's relevant to actually be providing upskilling training and reskilling. And as we come out of the pandemic, I think that need is only going to increase.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about the value. I mean, one of the things that I've experienced time and time again is that relationship can only be sustainable by virtue of value being received. So yes, we can invite businesses in to help us at the outset, but to make that sustainable, we need to demonstrate that value on an ongoing basis in exactly the ways that Andy's just articulated.
Okay, I'm just going to take an observation, which is a form of question from Emma Porter, who's popped a question over. She's graduated with a master's at Bath Spa Uni. She wants some advice, and it does relate to these courses, but slightly more generally. She wants advice about integrating Bath. She's got some really strong artwork. Well, one way we would say, Emma, is of course to connect with Creative Bath, and this program today is in conjunction with Creative Bath, which promotes the tech, the creativity, the culture of Bath. That's a free channel. But she's looking for further advice about how she might approach local businesses to help promote their work. Could someone help me with this? She feels somewhat isolated, and I guess that's true of many people in a community that she's living in currently. Any thoughts about how one might engage, Emma specifically? You could pop some details through the
Thank you, Emma. And I think the first thing to say is let's have a direct chat, because as I said in a few moments ago, our early stages of work on this project made it very, very clear very quickly that there are two key elements, actually, in terms of getting it right: the access element, your question, and the destination element. And the curriculum is the join between those two. Yeah. So what we're in the process of doing at the moment is gathering as much discussion from the destination as we possibly can. So your question's a really good one. Rather than giving a pat answer, what I'd like to do is for us to discuss it with you further and then see how we can support. Tony is.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. And both the university, Bath Spa University, and also the college have extensive relationships with the employers across the city. So we can have a conversation about the specifics raised here with direct employers, but we can also to expand upon that as part of the Restart programme. We're also working with the other employment and employer initiatives that the council are running as well and WECA are running as well. So, you know, between all of us, let's have the conversation, let's sit down and we'll work out and plot a pathway that works.
I'd like to come on to 2 points. First is timescale. You mentioned about 2023, but just talk us through perhaps briefly the milestones, what people and businesses might expect in Bath, but then to come on to the bigger picture about why this matters for Bath. So let's go for timescale. What is happening and what will happen when?
Yeah, so I can cover that, Greg. So right now, I'll actually go back a year here. March 2020, the consortium, so ourselves, University of Bath, Bath College, and also Bath and North East Somerset Council, put in our outline business case for iStart to WECA, the West of England Combined Authority. We received some pointers on it, some suggestions. Interestingly, and this is significant, none of the feedback that we received questioned the project itself. It was all about how we were going to deliver it. So we've spent the last number of months looking at how we're going to deliver it, both from a skills and curriculum perspective that myself or Andy are involved in, an operating model perspective, and also a research and innovation perspective. The culmination of that is we are resubmitting the business case in April of this year, so a couple of months. So right now, outside of this call, we're head down, Greg, writing up our application and our submission for that. Should we be successful, we then take it to the next stage. So the next stage is full business case. So there'll be an element of work that we need to do between April the 16th and full business case around evaluating the land, looking at various options and so on and so forth, the planning side of it, okay, as well as expanding upon the curriculum and also the research and innovation offering, okay. Should we get full business case approval, we'll then be into building of the actual construction, be that a new build or be it refurb of an existing property. We are going through, as part of the process, the options appraisal. So they're the timelines, and
Tony, sorry, on that very last point, I'm sure your answer will be caveated a lot here, but give us some idea of scale. When you say the physical offering, roughly how big, what sort of comparable other building size might it be?
Yeah, okay, so a minimum of 35,000 square feet would be the answer to that. In Bath city centre, the location that we're looking at, Bath Quays, so the emerging CBD of the city. And we're also looking at various other delivery mechanisms as well. So a central hub, but also what spokes can we bring into the overall iStart estate. So there's a big evaluation process going on at the moment, looking at all of those options. But to answer the question, it's around about 35,000 square feet, and to put that in real terms, it's half the size of a football pitch.
good reference point there indeed. And just to Andy's earlier point about this period being sort of effectively a great accelerator, I think the whole concept of Bath having a CBD, a central business district, was not even faintly on the a little while back, and it's becoming more and more central as the Quays project particularly comes forward. So tell us about that bigger picture point. Why does this matter to Bath? And by the way, is this unique to Bath? Are there other cities operating on similar levels of ambition?
I think it is unique. If I talk about the uniqueness for a second, and then why that matters for us particularly as a city, the uniqueness is not having an innovation centre or a startup centre. Loads of cities have got those. Neither is it in having, if you like, developing a skills pipeline. Loads of cities have got those. The uniqueness is bringing the whole thing together as one thing. And the big idea, and nobody has done that in the UK. The big idea behind that, I mean, and this, it sounds like a really obvious thing to say, but I, you know, just test it out in our thought spaces. I think we've got used to the idea of the narrative that you began the discussion with, Greg. Namely, that universities are jolly useful things, but a bit sort of sequestered, slightly slightly otherworldly, vaguely useful. Well,
wow.
let's
I wouldn't go that far.
let's abandon that narrative.
Yeah, please.
Let's start with, how can we really be of socioeconomic good? How can we really be a driver for, not just for our students, but actually, and that, of course, that really does matter, particularly in Bath, you know, that student ratio you were talking about a minute ago, but for our whole community. Let's also abandon the idea that students are simply between the ages, namely, of 85% of UK universities business is around people between the ages of 18 and 21. Why? Adult short engagement now accounts for 1% of UK universities businesses. So let's turn all that on its head. Why does that matter for, and that is unusual thinking. Why does that matter? And because behind that, you can then start, the key to the short course thing is not just the agility of participation, people can take place from anywhere. It's actually about, if you like, the agility of design. In other words, our local businesses say, we need something in this, and we can produce it. Currently, for an undergraduate program, it takes 3 years to design a course. Well, this is useless in relation to the kinds of needs that you were talking about a few minutes ago. We need to be able to put something on at very short notice that we don't run, that we then change in a year's time.
Yeah. One of the other conceptual challenges which you and everyone faces is the self-limiting approach that education is defined as something that somehow stops at the age of 16 or 18 or 21 or whatever, but it's finite. And you graduate, it ends. Whereas what you're talking about is essentially a form of lifelong learning, or at least
totally
learning.
And it mirrors how, I mean, Tony mentioned the word collisions in the curriculum bit. Just to unpack that a moment, because I think that matters, and I hope it makes sense in terms of people's careers. The collision point is that because if you like, there's a series of short modules, and you do this and this, but then you can bump into that. That can then lead you off over here in a direction you weren't thinking about. I don't know about the rest of us as an audience in relation to this, but that's exactly how my career has worked. It's been the collisions that have been the thing that have then guided me into some other point. Emma's question from a moment ago was essentially asking, where are my collision points? Where can I, and actually we've got to create stuff that enables that, not just inside education, so to speak, but in the relationship between education and everything that's outside it, which is why we're engaging in education in the first place. I think that matters enormously for Bath for two reasons. I mean, number one, the obvious business reason. The second thing is it fits with the city's DNA. Bath was created as an extraordinary piece of the imagination. We need to have the 21st century version of that. And we could become known for that. And that would place us on the map in relation to, because it's clearly obvious, isn't it? Think about things we've been talking about already in this discussion. I don't use this word lightly. We're on the edge of an epoch. That the thing about carbon reduction, carbon zero by 2030, that has, you know, Bill Gates's points from earlier this week. That has huge implications that we're only just beginning to start exploring.
And Just one observation back on that as a stand-back point. You know, we're all the beneficiaries of an extraordinary creative flowering and legacy of 200, 250 years ago.
Yeah.
The boomerang question back is, okay, what are we doing in whichever way to create anything like a form of legacy or enduring value? I'm going to come back to a couple of specifics. First of all, you mentioned Emma. She rather nicely said to your answers, so good for you. Perfect. Thank you very much. Much appreciated, which is good. We've had a question from Lydia Tewkesbury. Lydia is the deputy editor of Bath Life. And she's got a point about to your socioeconomic, the engagement point. She says, how will the project engage with underemployed communities? For example, people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Tony, please take that. Great question. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, this is where you drive benefits from the consortia approach. Each of the institutions has strengths to bring forward, and one of the big strengths that Bath College has is its community links. So the college do an awful lot with the harder to reach communities. They do a lot of work outside of Bath City Centre, so across the jurisdiction of Baines. So, we will leverage the experience that Bath College has here, working on that access point, making sure that we're not excluding individuals. And then to build on that, Greg, it's one thing, working at the access point, but when we enroll people on the programme itself, we need to ensure that the curriculum's designed in a way that supports people's individual needs, be it, at the moment, an obvious one would be having to homeschool, for example. So we need to have a very, very flexible delivery model in order to support those needs. And to build on that further, it's also where the curated collisions come in. So, we've gone through a planning process here. And one of the personas that we've modelled, is someone that came out of school at 16, no qualifications, they're 22 now, didn't like school. And there was a real recognition that if we were to place that individual into iStart, he or she would probably leave after 2 weeks. Right? So what we need to do is bring that curated collision aspect into it and give them the opportunity to do things on a hands-on basis, hands-on learning, gain confidence by doing things, gain confidence by making mistakes. So it's an ongoing thing, Greg, to answer the question, from both the access points, leveraging the strengths that the college have, but also then taking that through the delivery as well, and then supporting them at the destination point into employment.
And one specific point related to Lydia's question, what about the digital poverty that, however integrated, collaborative, et cetera, the reach out that there is, the value and so on, if people cannot pay, cannot afford laptops, they can't engage with you.
Yeah, that's right. Again, one of the things that we're looking at is how do we address that digital divide as part of the design point of the programme. And we're working again with community groups to understand that. And there are 3 points to this, Greg. It's not just a case of providing someone with a laptop. It goes beyond that. If we give them a laptop, they need Wi-Fi access to be able to do things at home. They need to know how to use the machine as well. So, for this to work, and this is the bigger picture of what we're looking at, it actually goes beyond provision of equipment, and we're looking at it at a more holistic level in terms of that end-to-end piece, the equipment, the Wi-Fi access, and also skills to use it as well. But it's all part of the design point of the programme, addressing that digital divide as part of the inclusivity at the access point.
Well, I won't name check them in case it feels like I'm trying to bounce them into action, but we know in both from a Creative Bath point of view, but also from Bath Life's point of view, there are a number of extremely civically minded, decent technology companies, whether that's about tech provision or broadband, Wi-Fi, whatever, but who will be contributing if there is a pipeline through which they can contribute. And I'm sure we can all help spread the word on that basis.
That would be great.
Yeah, I wanted to come to those businesses. You mentioned, I think at one point, there's something like 50 businesses to date have been involved in some way. But can you give maybe a case study, but some sort of indicative story about how they've engaged and what it has meant so far? What types of businesses?
Maybe if I give an overview comment and then Tony. The way we've engaged has been to try and follow the same logic for iStart in terms of talking to businesses, because there's a tendency. I'll use an example. I do my background is creative and digital, so I do a fair amount of work with the Creative Industries Federation. There's a danger in those federations, fabulous as they are, that you end up talking about the same stuff because you fundamentally come from the same world, and then you decide that the needs of the planet are the ones that are based around your particular set of drivers.
A form of confirmation bias, I guess. We've
been really keen to avoid that. So we've engaged with companies, civic bodies, leading organisations across the city in a way that would probably look fairly eclectic in a traditional way of thinking. But the reason is because we want to avoid that confirmation bias, and we need our own thinking challenging. So if you could use a couple of examples, that would be great.
Yeah, so as part of the iStart planning process, we held a business workshop on the 15th of December, and two specific, it was a virtual workshop. We then went on to breakout groups, but two specific questions were posed. What content do you want to see within the iStart curriculum, and how do you want to interact with the programme? And the breadth of business ranged from multinational organisations, one fairly close to my previous employment history, through to larger Bath-based employers and also SMEs, as well as representatives of business groups like Business West as an example. So we were able to get that breadth. And a couple of key themes come through. The first, Greg, is just the importance and consistency of personal skills and the delivery of a skills pipeline with individuals that have communication skills, confidence, resiliency, problem-solving skills. It just comes through time and time again. So, we've taken that, we've looked at how we can deliver it. Again, the college have great experience there, and we will be running that through both Restart and iStart. Okay. The second point that came through was digital, not surprising, but we unpacked that. Again, in order to get a breadth, it ranges from an introduction to computing through to the alignment of technology to solve business challenges right now. And then the third point in terms of how do you want to interact on an ongoing basis? Well, the first is this modular-based curriculum. So to check and balance our curriculum throughout. If there are content areas that are no longer relevant, we'll drop them, we'll replace them. The second thing was, again, we've mentioned previously on this call in terms of participating, delivering content, lecturing, mentors, work experience, so on and so forth. So that's an example of what we've done specifically in relation to iStart to engage the business community. And the what's in it is it provides businesses with a pipeline of individuals with skills to match their recruitment challenges, okay, that are both relevant and also in demand.
I think just to add, the other thing was really heartening for us, because this is it's an innovative, explorative venture. The level of business engagement has been incredible, which feels like we're doing something worthwhile.
Let's just explore that a little bit. That I know there's a slight danger if you've got 50 companies or whatever who've been involved. If you name one or two, then you're not naming all of them. But do give, if you can, a couple of specifics. What sorts of businesses, perhaps Bath businesses, have engaged so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to provide some examples. So Bureau Happold have been very, very engaging. They've helped us an awful lot in terms of both restarts and iStarts. A particular conversation that we had that really went into the problem-solving skills and having, an individual with that trait of, I think the phrase, Greg, that came through was the ability to make sense in a world that's increasingly unpredictable. Really being able to adapt, think on your feet, having people with those traits. So that came through very clearly. We've spoken with the rugby club a lot about resiliency and techniques for resiliency. Obviously, key part of their operation. I'm trying to think who else have been. I mean, we've had the RU8, Atkins Global, who are based in Bath. A number of small micro businesses. So a number of the Bath bid companies, Hotel Indigo, for example, were really, really interesting actually, because they were saying that a perception of a hotel is that it's reception staff and so on and so forth. But actually, they were saying our demand, our need is, these people can go on to be accountants. They can go on to be marketers within Hotel Indigo. Help us to do that. We will send our staff. We will engage our staff. It really breaks down some of the perceptions when you speak to people like that and understand their specific needs. So there's some examples that I've got. Andy, happy for you to.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. There's the thing that's been really exciting for us, I think, is that kind of like lifting of the lid. So another conversation that hits exactly the same point. I remember the one with Rocket Makers, where it opened with we're a digital creative company, but actually 85% of our staff are not directly involved in that. They're involved in a much wider thing as a business. The other thing that's really struck me is the common thread, totally unexpected actually on my part, probably not on Tony's, about this point about resiliency. Every single one of those conversations has landed on that. And, I thought the big issue was going to be about digitality, the digital divide, the gaps we've already been talking about. That always features. But I think our stat was something like 89% or something was primary issue was resiliency, and that was wonderfully summed up by a CEO who said, and Andy and Tony, can't you just teach people that it's okay to fail? Because what they feel they're getting in is an education pipeline that doesn't connect with the fact that life is about a continual series of adjustments, and success is not instant.
And also, it's not linear. One doesn't lead to another.
No, exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Test, try, learn, stop, go, whatever. It's multiple. I wanted to also just to pick up on your point, Tony, about the sheer panoply of companies. It's quite clear that all different sizes and scales of businesses can be involved, and I think it's frankly it's heartening to hear that range. And we will of course continue to promote through Bath Life the activities here and provide the routes for businesses to engage. But I wanted to take a question from Brian Gibson, who's asked. He's talking about the principle of the CBD and harder to reach communities. How do you ensure the social interaction across the city and outskirts? How do you make sure that there's not a division of communities, students, tourists, etc., harder to reach communities? That's an issue for any city. It's arguably a yet more profound issue for Bath, where you've got so much wealth in certain pockets of the city, and so many tourists coming to that city. How do you ensure that there is that degree of sort of permeability across the city? What's your role here?
Maybe if I just say something which is very much a personal view. I've been in Bath 3 years, just about. I love it here. I feel a passionate connection to our new home. Two things strike me in relation to that question, as if you like, a relatively recent incomer. One is that having conversations in the city is not difficult. What I noticed in my first summer was that when you look at the flow of people in the city, particularly young people, there is no central conversation place. And I think part of the answer to that, Brian, is to provide something which, if you like, provides a bit of a beacon that can pull things in. And I think the physical location of an iStart could really help with that, particularly if it is then linked in virtually as well as physically with a whole series of other distribution points, so to speak. You know, for instance, Tony's mentioned the college. The college have 32 community centres. Now, so you know, so some of this is about how do we plug in the resource we've already got. The second bit, I think, and you know, today's a great example of it, is how do we work together more carefully, thoughtfully, in a virtual way, because we have a huge opportunity now to connect up in ways that, just because this has now become acceptable, we have a huge opportunity to connect up in ways that we didn't previously. I think in terms of the hard to reach, it's very much about identifying key stakeholders, so to speak.
Can I just add to that as well, Andy, in terms of the space? You know, one of the case studies that we're looking at the moment, Greg, is, you know, you look at various other examples of iStart type designs as part of the planning process, is the engine shed in Bristol. Okay. The engine shed in Bristol receives 30,000 visitors a year, and it hosts 1,200 events a year. I don't think, I'm happy for people to challenge me, but I don't think there's the modern space that exists in the centre of Bath today to provide that level of provision. Now, obviously, you know, going back to the question, we obviously need to ensure that we're working with the college and the hard to meet communities and so on and so forth. But that central hub, that building that people can look at and it's accessible, it's a modern space, it's welcoming, people can go into it on a Saturday afternoon. That's our vision, that, you know, people can go in on a Saturday afternoon, a Sunday afternoon and see what's going on. Visitors, the engine shed gets nationally and internationally. That's what we want in Bath, that's our vision. And to host a whole series of events that are relevant to Bath now, but also the, you know, the emerging economy of Bath, the opportunities for business and so on and so forth. That's our vision for the building.
I think that that vision is a point at which we're going to call this to halt. We're through our hour. It's shot by. I think there's an awful lot that's inspiring about that. Just to pick up the very latter point, that sense of permeable space, open space, in a way that you can have those greater collaborations, can help reshape, redefine how the city thinks about itself, let alone the educative value in the broader sense that this initiative will bring. I hope everyone has found this useful. As ever, this is not an end point. This is a start to other conversations. It's quite clear this is a long-term, ambitious, major-scale approach. And you know, we wish you all the very best in your deliberations and your business plan proposals. And thank you both for your talk and comments today. To Andy and to Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Greg.
And just to come to the end of this, I mean, we, you know, all of us, everyone in business, everyone in personal, social life and so on, is looking for insight and ideas. And I hope you've all taken something from this today. and for whether it's the innovation or just the way of thinking about our city. And it is great to see Bath Spa University engaging in this way in the city, and to see hear the vision and so on.
And obviously, we would really welcome, you know, further conversation. That's crucial. We need your help.
And just to bounce you each, are you okay for a link in the email that goes out after this?
Yes, please.
With your emails in there as prompts. If that's,
yes, please.
Yes.
You know, again, it's a digital connected culture. Let's make sure we're accelerating the value. Yeah. Thank you to everyone today for your time and your questions. Do look out for the next business surgery with Bath Life on March 4th about the impact of the Chancellor's budget. Also, thank you very much for your support, your continuing support for Bath Life. Good luck to you all in the coming weeks and months as this great reset kicks in, which it will. This has been a Media Clash production. This has been the latest Bath Life Business Surgery. Bath together, always. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.